Let's see. Let's find out. Yes, I am already live, but I can't see myself. So I don't know. Setting up your webinar for Facebook Live, and it's streaming. Okay, I think I am definitely live. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, I am. I have been live. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful evening. It's at 8:36 in London. I hope it's evening time. Wait a minute. Yeah, so I already have one viewer. Okay, so the topic for tonight is getting married in the UK. I wanted to discuss this. I have been wanting to discuss this topic for a long time because I receive a lot of inquiries from potential clients who wanted to find out whether they can get married in the UK and what the procedure is. So I've got my notes just to make sure that I don't forget anything. Right. So at present, okay, if you want to get married in the UK, there is no longer a requirement for you to get permission from the Home Office. It used to be that you get a certificate of approval from the Home Office. And when you receive this, then you can go ahead and get married. But this was abolished in 2011 because the court decided that, court ordered that scheme was unlawful. Okay, and it took about 3 years for the Home Office to actually abolish the scheme, despite the court, the House of Lords, the highest court in the UK at that time, it's now changed to Supreme Court, decided that that scheme was unlawful, but it was only enforced and implemented in 3 years later. So the procedure for getting married in the UK is that where you live, in local council, you go to a local registry office, and you give them notice. So you go to a registrar or you phone and you make an appointment and tell them that you want to get married. And so they would set an appointment, and you turn up with your identity, so passport. Passport, I think, definitely. And then they take your details, your name, your age, your nationality, and with that nationality, obviously, you have to prove that you have your ID. So it used to be quite easy to get married. Okay, you just turn up and you just say we want to get married, and the registrar would take your details. You show the passport. They didn't even look at whether you have a visa or not at that time. But it's changed completely. I'm not sure exactly when this changed, because there's now a duty for the registrar, for the person taking details when you go and give your notice to marry, to report any suspicions of sham marriage. Okay, and the word sham marriage is now defined in the statute. So it's now it's not defined by judges, which can be flexible, but it's actually defined in the Act. And they defined it as this. Okay, so sham marriage is if either, okay, so one of you or both of you is not a UK citizen, is not an EA citizen, or is not or are not Swiss national citizen or Swiss national. Okay, so I don't know why they've included Swiss national, but if you're not British, if you're not EEA, and if you're not Swiss, then that's one of the requirement. Then that can be this is the requirement. Okay, so sham marriage. So if you're not one of those, then you kind of fall into this definition of you're entering into a sham marriage. The next requirement is that there is no genuine relationship. This is common sense. Okay, I mean, a sham marriage is a sham if there is no genuine relationship, if you're just contracting to benefit something out of that marriage. So there's no genuine relationship, and okay, and there is and. So there's two already. So so those two requirements have to be satisfied, and then a third one has also have to be satisfied. And this third requirement is either or both parties to the marriage enter into the marriage for one or more of these purposes. I don't know. I've got only two of those purposes. So for one, those purposes is to avoid, okay, to avoid the effect of the immigration law or immigration rules. So if one or both, well, I would say only one, because why would two people who don't have visas, for example, enter into a marriage? So it wouldn't make sense. But if one, for example, if one is about to be deported, or whose visa is about to be expired, then they would fall under this purpose. You're entering into a marriage to kind of avoid the immigration law applying on you. Okay, so, and the other one is that you benefit from it. Okay, so you benefit from the marriage. So for example, if you're marrying an EA national, then you would benefit from it, because you would then get to apply for a visa as a family member of an EA national, for example. So those are the three requirements for considering your marriage as sham. And if the registrar suspects, and they would suspect this because they're trained, okay, they will be trained. If they see that you are not, one of you or both of you are not British citizen, EA citizen, or Swiss citizen, then automatically I think the trigger will be, okay, I'll have to report this. So they have a duty to report suspected sham marriages, and that's why when it gets reported, it may be that you can't, you have to wait for the Home Office to write to you, okay, to say, okay, you can go ahead and get married. And in some cases, you get interviewed by the Home Office, both of you and your partner, in a separate room. I had a client who, she came, I think this is after 3 applications. She used a apparently lawyer, but that lawyer was not really a lawyer. I don't know. You have to be careful. So this person was acting for them for the application for her residence card, because she married an EA national. So apparently what happened was they got interviewed, okay, and she said to me that they got interviewed over the phone. So they didn't go to to the Home Office and interviewed in person. They were interviewed by a phone. So the interpreter, or they may have been interviewed by a Home Office, but the interpreter was over the phone, and that's why because she couldn't speak English. So the interpreter had probably misunderstandings, and therefore the result of the interview was that there were inconsistencies from her answers compared to her fiance's answers. So there were inconsistencies, and so the Home Office, when she then applied for spouse, family member visa, residence card as a family member of EEA national, it got refused because they said that there were inconsistencies in the answers to some of the questions. So, for example, what was the date of the proposal? Where did he propose? And I think few others. Where did you meet? Yes, there was a confusion about where did you meet? Who were you with at that time? So when they submitted their application, it was refused. And then the mistake that they made was that they then appealed against that decision on papers. They didn't turn up for the appeal hearing and explain to the judge, you know, what actually happened, that the relationship is actually genuine. Because when you are being accused of sham marriage, as you know, as I've said in the definition, that there's one of the requirements is that there is no genuine relationship. So you have to be able to prove that there is actually genuine relationship for that definition to not apply to your case. Okay, so if, for example, there are inconsistencies of the answers and you get interviewed, then make sure that when you go to appeal, because there should be an appeal, and hopefully if you're getting married to an EA citizen, then there is right of appeal. You can appeal against that. You should be able to you know, bring in some witnesses, people that you mutually who mutually know you as a couple, to verify, to confirm to the judge that, you know, they've known you, he or she has known you for that period of time, and that you are a genuine couple. Okay, so because although you can say, well, you know, we live together and we have this proof of you know, bank statements, joint account, tenancy agreement, those documents in black and white, in itself does not really prove genuine relationship. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there has been a lot of I think sham marriages, and especially with the EA citizens and non-EEA citizens, and so the courts have kind of caught up on this kind of schemes. Okay, for the client that I mentioned earlier, she could not produce these documents, like for example tenancy agreement, bank statements, because at the time she overstayed in the UK. She was an overstayer, and therefore she couldn't get these documents. She couldn't get a bank account. She couldn't get a credit card. All these financial documents that she's supposed to submit, but the Home Office in their refusal letter says, well, you know, it can't be genuine because you haven't provided these documents. There's no joint, you know, there's no financial link between you and your husband, and so on. So it seems quite unreasonable for them to say it when they know themselves that it is difficult for a person to open those kind of accounts if they don't have a visa. Okay, so right, so moving on. So that is the definition of sham marriage. There's also a definition of marriage of convenience, but it's not really it's not defined in the law. It's just a legal kind of interpretation. Okay, and it says that it connotes one contracted to secure an immigration advantage. So if you are you know, if you are benefiting from the marriage, whether or not there's a genuine relationship there, then it would still be considered as marriage of convenience. Okay, so for those who have visas expired, or overstayers who wanted to get a benefit from getting married to a UK citizen or an EA citizen, then that would still be considered as a marriage of convenience because you benefited from it. But it is up to the Home Office to prove that your marriage is one of marriage of convenience. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes. Just bear with me. So here, apparently there are, so I wanted to tell you about these figures. Apparently there are about 35,000 marriages per year that will need to be referred for potential investigation, and the 6,000 will be investigated. Okay, I think if you have overstayed, if you don't have a visa, the tendency, and if you're in a relationship with a British partner, EA national, tendency is to, okay, let's just get married. Fair enough if that is actually what you really want to do, to be tied to British partner, EA citizen. But if you've been living together for 2 years, or you've been in a relationship for 2 years and you can kind of prove, even though limited proof that you can collect to submit your application, I think it's probably better to make that application than to enter into marriage, because there is a risk that your marriage may be considered as either sham or, well, sham if there's absolutely no genuine relationship, sham, or a marriage of convenience. Okay, and I'm saying that it's risky because there's already there is a I've got this information here. It says sham marriages and civil partnerships background information and proposed referral and investigation scheme. So the Home Office, the Home Office and the courts are not stupid. Okay, they do have this information. They do have this. They know what kind of schemes people are entering into, and so in 2013 there is this scheme that they do, and they identified risk factors. So for example, if you are a nationality, if you are a national of one of those countries who have a high risk of involving in a sham, okay, then they probably look into your marriage, okay, even though there's definitely proof that your marriage is genuine. Okay, if you have had no immigration status or holds a visa that's about to expire, that is quite a classic, example. Okay, it's an example that, oh my goodness, my visa is about to expire. What do I do? So you then enter into or get married with someone, so you can benefit from it. Okay. And then the other one is that you've had an application to remain refused. So if you previously made an application and it was refused, and then so you get married. Okay. Subject to credible. If you've been a subject of a report from the registrar. Okay. So the registrar, as I said, the registrars are trained to spot couples who, I don't know, maybe they can identify who are, showing romantic expressions to each other while they were giving notice, or those people who are just so detached that you can't possibly think that they're a couple. So these kind of things, they know about this. So if they suspect that you're entering into a sham marriage, they would definitely report you. And one of them is that if you can't communicate with each other, so one of you speaks English, another one speaks completely different language, and you don't know how to communicate with each other. Okay, so that's one. That's all kind of, I've got a list of risk factors, but just sort of for the benefit of this talk, I've just mentioned those few things that kind of apply. Okay, so sometimes, so clients would come and say, look, can I get married, and so on. So I think it's probably better if you've been married, if you've been together for 2 years, and apply as an unmarried couple, and then maybe say in your application that you will get married if you get this visa. Okay, I think that's probably much better than just entering into marriage so that you benefit from it. So that is my opinion anyway. Okay, I'm saying this because I had one client who applied for applied for unmarried partner, same sex. Okay, and it was a very very shocking decision, because I never expected it to be granted first time application. It's always been that if you've overstayed in the UK, if you've overstayed and you haven't had visa for a long time, then when next time you apply, it's automatically refused, because that's just how it's supposed to be. But no, the Home Office completely surprised me, completely shocked me. So we made an application, but I think what swayed it in his favor was that we had some third parties, friends, families of the partner confirming that the relationship was genuine. So firstly, the relationship was genuine. Secondly, was that they couldn't get married. Okay, so it's kind of asking the Home Office permission. We want to get married, but we can't get married because he doesn't have a visa. But we will get married if we are granted this leave to remain. And I think that's how I think that's how he got it. We mentioned the fact that he can't go home to his home country because same-sex marriage was not allowed, was not recognized. But at the same time, he couldn't really get married here because he doesn't have a visa yet. And it's acknowledged. I think it's acknowledged when you acknowledge something. I think they like it. But maybe he was just so lucky that he got the visa straight away, without having to appeal and then apply for judicial review and then appeal again and then reapply again. Oh my God, that costs so much money. So he was very very lucky with this application. So yes, so Home Office sometimes can be very fair. Okay, it's very rare, but they can be fair. And if you get a lucky caseworker, then your application will be granted. Okay, guys. So I think I've covered what I wanted to say tonight about getting married in the UK. But if you have any questions about what I said, what I mentioned, then feel free to message me. And for those who have messaged me and I may have forgotten about you, I hope I haven't. I know I have one or two that I have to get back and send you information. But for those who have been waiting for my response, for example, please do not hesitate to just PM me and ask me for or chase me. Please do not hesitate. I will respond to you. Sometimes almost immediately when you message, but when I'm not, but when I am working and I have deadlines, it may be that later on I catch up with the messages. Okay, so okay guys, have a lovely evening. Bye bye.